Great morning, friends. This is your boy Dragon coming to you with another Rise Up with Dragon. As a quick reminder, I want to welcome you to the eye of the storm, and I want to welcome you to the playing field of your consciousness. This podcast's intention and how you could best use it is to use it to remove the blindfolds from your program mind so that you can gain access today to a higher level of consciousness, as well as tap into your true great potential. How do we do this? We do this with our straight to the punch, 10-minute or so deep thought podcast format, as well as our weekly blog called The Dragon's Lair, One from the Vault, which is coming out Mondays. So I want to welcome everybody to Rise Up with Dragon. And as always, we wish you a great morning. For the first time. So welcome everybody. For some reason, we didn't get our sound effects on there today. But listen, that's what I love about this morning is, I structured this morning a long time ago. I think it's been about 15 years that I've been doing these rise ups. And what I'm about to do is regurgitate something that I wrote this morning in coordination with my doing my book. But as a reminder, one of the things that I've been executing is just pushing myself into this uncomfortable zone where sometimes things don't go right. That's the very specific reason why I've created a live show. I could very easily do my podcast and just record it all by myself. But I pushed myself into the live format because traditionally that's what always scared me. So that's kind of like that space in between who I was and who I want to be. And that's where growth takes place. So I want to just drop a couple of dragon thoughts today. First of all, I saw an image this morning because, as you know, we have this other podcast called NFTs Made Simple, which is moving into NFTs, cryptocurrency, as well as the space of the metaverse, which is just very, very interesting. And whether you like it or not, it's probably something you should know about because it's going to be everywhere real soon. But I was looking at a picture of a human with those, Oculus or whatever virtual reality goggles, recognizing that we're moving into this space where we're not going to be able to differentiate, the difference between virtual reality and reality. This is what Elon Musk said, but it's true. I've spent quite a bit of time in the metaverse and started to get comfortable there, and kids that are playing games with or interacting, adults alike, with virtual reality apparatus are starting to kind of like get comfortable there, but find themselves interacting with it as if it was real. So I saw this image of somebody wearing them with this stuff on my mind. And I thought about a quote by Albert Einstein. And Albert Einstein says this. He says, reality is merely an illusion, albeit a persistent one. And I just think that that's a really, really cool quote that's, was obviously way, way before his time. But we knew back then that whatever we perceive as reality, especially the one that continuously is perceived with persistence, becomes reality. So, one of my gifts that I love to give people, and this idea of removing blindfolds, it's just whatever it is that you consider to be reality today, including what I'm about to share with you, my thoughts, my reality, doesn't mean that it is actually reality, does it? Right? So maybe you can use that to not take yourself and others so seriously today. So Dragon Thoughts wrote this down because our episode today is called No One, N-O, 0 N-E. But I was thinking before that, this idea that right now there's a lot of turmoil and a lot of uncertainty and concern in the world. So I want to address that. We wake up in the morning and we boot up our computer and we have this perception. We create this perception when we boot up that today's a good day or a bad day. I've been getting a lot of calls from people because, there was COVID and then there's economic crisis and all that stuff, that is just being pumped through the news channels and we're consuming it on a regular day. So it makes sense that we're waking up because whatever we consume ends up being what we assume. And we label the day as good or a bad day. Most of the time we're victims of circumstance and we say things are tough, it's a bad time, now's not a good time to do that. Got to tighten my belt right now. And the days that we think are good are just equally just an illusion of something good happening that you really love, that gives you joy, and you claim that it's a good day. Today was a good day. So whether or not, these things are good or bad, like business and stuff like that, they're simply perceptions. That's what I wanted to address. Are simply perceived in comparison, these perceptions are perceived in comparison to other times where things did work out. Like I've been talking to a lot of people saying like, it's a tough time right now. And my thought for the morning is it a tough time or is it just a different time? Now is different than then, right? So if you look back, if you're comparing now to then, what you're doing is you're saying, I'm doing the same things that I always used to do then, and they're not working now, which is where we create the perception that now is not a good time. So, just my thought for the day is, if you perceive that things have slowed down in any way in business and in life, then speed up, right? If you perceived and you have the sensation of overwhelm that things are moving too fast, then slow down. It's just a simple process, but it's foolish to acknowledge that, the same old things will work during different times. So today, is it a good day or a bad day, or is it just a different day? Right. So we always get to learn about that. And that's the work I do with the interface response system. So psyched for the book. Book's done, by the way. And we've signed on with Media Casters as our publishing house. So we've got an amazing editing team run by Renee. So that's coming out. And man, I'm excited about it. I'm going to read it and it's going to be awesome. So today's episode is called No One. So let's just jump into it. So we come into this world. This is something fascinating to think about. We come into this world as the biggest dreamers, and open to limitless possibilities until that time comes where we start to learn what we can't do, right? We start to learn from our programmers. I always refer to our mother, father, teacher, preacher, and society, the things that we've learned and we consume. Our programmers begin the process of programming us. So everything looks great. Look into the eyes of a child and you'll just see what it used to look like when you didn't know what you couldn't do. And then we start to get the programming. Learned helplessness is another term that I've come to love. So look into the eyes of that baby and you'll see what you used to look like. Like I said, when anything was possible. They're big, big eyes. So there's much debate over the fact, this is fascinating. There's much debate over the fact that we have all been born prematurely. So this kind of falls under, we forgive you for you know not what you do. It's not our fault. If you really think about it, when a baby is born, technically, in a perfect world, and this does not consider the mom's well-being, but in a perfect world, the baby would have like an extra 15 months in utero before birth. And the reason why that would be important is because it would give the baby the time that it needed to develop its brain, as well as its, response system, its perception and response system, so that it could see things the way that they are rather than the way that they're told. So just in this space right now, just acknowledge the fact that when we're born, what's happening is our brains are very susceptible to suggestion and very easily molded. So when we start to get that programming, not only is it impactful, but it wires in, right? So, if you find yourself today in this world where we're entertaining the idea that this is all just a dream, a video game, and a simulation, saying that, if you're saying things with exclamation points, I just want you to acknowledge the fact that that doesn't mean that they are, right? It just means that's what you were told and that's what you're wired to believe right now. So we emerge into this world with our undeveloped brains. So now you understand that concept. And we're not going to change that, but we can change the way we look at it. So we come out with these undeveloped brains, and the programming begins laying down the wiring for our thoughts, feelings, concepts, beliefs, and reality. So those programmers are MFTPS, mother, father, teacher, preacher, and society, commence in paying forward what it is that they were taught by their mother, father, teacher, preacher. Not to mention the fact that they've inherited, and they've inherited um, all of this information about, just surviving in this world and natural selection and all these concepts that have come from generations and generations and generations. So they're actually paying forward our history as well, not just their concepts, but our history of what is right and what is wrong. Just so cool to think about that. Um, Good and evil. There's another thing. What's good and evil? You've been taught that, right? So that's why people are afraid of certain types of people, and maybe you were taught to be afraid of a dog. Who knows? So we learn about the thoughts, feelings, and actions and possibilities, and we're taught lessons. Here's the topic of things like no one does that, and we're also taught about things that no one can do. So we do that for survival. And sometimes it actually works in our favor as we learn to escape harm and not cross the street into oncoming traffic, right? So that's a good thing. If you're taught, hey, look both ways, be alert. If a car hits you, it's going to hurt. So there are instances where what we're taught works for us, but there's others where it's a little bit too much, right? So I'm grateful for, some of the things that my programmers have taught me. But when it comes to my beliefs and openness to possibilities in thoughts, feelings, and actions, I feel that myself, as well as many of you, have been misled by our programmers. And it's not their fault, because they're unconscious to the fact that their thoughts and ideas that they're passing forward or paying forward were wired in by somebody else as well. So what we can do listening to this podcast right now is we can say, maybe I'll stop that process right now, especially if you have children. I'm raising a little girl right now, so I have the opportunity to not pass on all of my bullshit to her, and teach her to ask questions and move into that space of consciousness and observe things and say why is that, show me the data and things like that. So I understand and harbor no resentment to my programmers, as they were just passing the torch of reality that they were sold, right? So in Buddhism, this is really cool. In Buddhism, they say, if no one can accomplish something, then be no one. So I'm going to encourage and invite everybody today to be no one. I just love this idea. It's validated by all the crazy ones. Think about all these people that are on top of this little mountain that you perceive is at a point, and you don't have a seat at that table. There's a seat for everybody. It's collecting dust, but everybody can go up to that mountain. But in order to do that, you have to be a crazy one. You have to be no one. The no ones, we'll call them. So today, I'm going to choose a different response to the common questions when asked, how are you, or who are you? I'm just going to respond to them by saying, nice to meet you. I'm no one. And not to separate myself from everyone, but just to move myself into this space where I have the ability to do anything, right? And not live by the rules that I've been taught. So I'll say, they say, who are you? And I'll say, no one. Nice to meet you, right? Nice to meet you. Who are you? So make sense? So love and appreciate you. Sorry for the technical problems today. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time.